Dear participants of the 7th International Conference of Seoul Botanic Garden. My name is Arve Elvebakk. I'm professor in botany and leader of Tromsø Arctic-alpine Botanic Garden. And together with my colleague Martin Hyman, I will give you a guided tour of our garden. Tromsø is the world's northernmost botanic garden. Our city is situated here, which is way to the north of the Arctic Circle. However, due to the mild Gulf Stream, we do not have tundra. We have birch forests up to about 400 meters, whereas on the opposite side, near Greenland, the sea currents come from the north and it's very cold. So these areas are entirely different due to the sea current patterns. And then we have mountain areas all along the Scandinavian peninsula, and we have a part of Arctic here, in addition to our Arctic territory of Svalbard. During our presentations, we will combine many smaller videos. So we hope that this method of presentation will bridge the gap and that we feel closer than the reality when we are on different parts of the globe. Our botanic garden has two characteristics which we will show you. Now we are in our Saxifraga collection at the Saxifraga wall, and this is our special habitats for species of the silver saxifrages, and we grow 13 out of the 14 known species. The one we see here at the front is the national flower of Norway, Saxifraga cotyledon. It has most of its total populations are from Norway, and it grows in steep slopes like here, and it forms a set of rosettes, and only the single rosette which has put flowers dies the same year. But then we have more species, and one here is even larger. This is Saxifraga longifolia from the Pyrenees and from a single locality in Morocco. And it's more challenging in cultivation because it only forms one very large rosette. So in this case we need to collect seeds to maintain the plant in cultivation. Now we are at our southern entrance to our Arctic collection. Our Arctic collection is not very large in area, but it contains 5 different space areas, so a visitor will experience it as quite large. And on this side we grow plants from the American and Siberian part of the Arctic. So let us enter the Arctic. We have many interesting species. Here is Pedicularis groenlandica. Only this plant, which is grown in the shadow, is still in flower. And you can see its low lip is like some elephant trunk. Rarely cultivated. The Pedicularis species are semi-parasites, and they are thought to be very difficult in cultivation, but we managed to grow several of them. And it's a pretext for not weeding very carefully just here. If we continue, we have on the left a wonderful orchid, Cypripedium, from Alaska. A little further ahead we have a brown Fritillaria from Kamchatka, and it's past flowering already. One peony just enters the Arctic. A linum enters the Arctic. Here we have some plants growing in screes in Svalbard, but they are past flowering now. And let us walk around the corner. Here, visitors have best view of the garden. And when we come here, we can walk down with parts of the Caucasus collection on the right hand and the Arctic on the left one. And here we have, in the middle part of the scree, we have the Ranunculus willanderii, which we photographed when it still was in flower. And here you will see a small composite plant, and it's a very rare species. It's called Crypis multicollis. It's known from a single locality in Europe, in a valley in northeasternmost Finnmark, and we have cultivated on the other side. If you see, there is a scree on the other side, but for some reason this habitat might be too dry, so it has moved its own initiative and settled down here and in several other places. So this shows us that this species is short-lived and moves quite a lot. So we have learned about this biological behavior by having security cultivation in the garden. One of our rarest plant is a Ranunculus willanderii, which grows in a single place in Svalbard, and it was known from 30 or 40 specimens. We cultivate it here. It is a little bit past peak flowering now already, and it's a species which has asexual reproduction. Seeds self-germinate here. It's a wonderful species. As we are here, I must show you my favorite plant from Svalbard, and it's a dandelion. You wouldn't expect that. And it's budding here. It's called Taraxacum arcticum, as you see here, and it is white, a little bit yellowish at the throat, and it's very charming, and it's difficult in cultivation, and we try to grow it in an area which is not too hot. Here we grow several other very rare species which we need for ex situ cultivation, and one of them is Stellaria fenica, which is known from a single place in northeasternmost Norway, and we originally planted it here because here is the label, but it has moved by itself here and made a much more beautiful individual growing close to the path. And as you see, it grows together with a tall herb with banana-like flowers. It's Pedicularis septrum carolinum. It's a quite common plant. It's also a semi-parasite, and it has a special flower because it's apparently closed. So only the largest bumblebees manage to force themselves in. Then they keep the nectar to themselves, and they come smiling out of the flower looking for another flower of the same type. Here we have another very rare Stellaria species. It's more glaucous green, the leaves, and it is more surrounded by grass. But I would like to show you the label, because plants which grow in our northern areas we label both by their Norwegian name, which is pomorstjerneblom, and Sami name, which is Goladahilsko.
This colony of grass is Arctophila fulva, the very rare species growing in Norway only on 2 localities. And this one is our ex situ population, which is safe in case it will disappear in nature. Very well established in the wet area, exactly how it grows in nature. In ponds, in the water nearby coast. Here we are in our Caucasus collection, which includes plants from the Caucasus, Turkey and the Middle East area, which is quite warm. And here in Tromsø far north, to make the warm space, we have made south-facing rock feature which imitates the collapse feature with the scree and the rock crevices, accumulating as much warmth as possible. And there we are able to grow plants from very warm place, like even from Iran. For example, this Peonia Vendelboy, which was recently described from Iran, named after Per Vendelbo, and which grows with the rocky places in Iran and needs quite a warm place. And that's exactly the way how we grow it here in Tromsø. And to see more peonies, how they grow far north, a bit different, would be quite nice to see our peony collection. So let's have a look at it. Meconopsis collection is one of our special collection we have in our botanic garden, and we are quite lucky due to our climate. I mean wet and cold, which is very equal to Himalayan environment, where all of those Meconopsis are growing in monsoon areas in Himalayas, like this Meconopsis punicea from Sichuan, or those Meconopsis integrifolia growing in eastern Tibet plateau, and the same all those hybrids of Meconopsis napaulensis from Nepal and Annapurna area, and some of Meconopsis grandis growing in area of Bhutan and southeastern Tibet plateau. One another Meconopsis monocarpic species recently described, Meconopsis heterandra, described by Toshio Yoshida. One another mysterious Meconopsis is Meconopsis punicea, but since it's a perennial form, comparing to punicea known as a monocarpic, this is one of mysterious plant grown under the name Sichuan silk. Meconopsis balangensis varieta atrata is one of those more exclusive. So we grow them for seed production and exchange it with other Meconopsis specialists in Scotland and parts of Meconopsis study group.
Hi, so here we have Tephroceres integrifolia, and we grow it along with about 20 other red listed species from Norway. This plant, this species, grow only at one location in a fjord in Arctic area of Finnmark, close to the town of Vardø. This species grows scattered all around in the northern hemisphere in the polar region. In Norway, it's only the westernmost location in Europe and Eurasia. So we keep it here at its natural location. It's been grazed by reindeer. They sometimes take off the flowers, they are grazing off the seed stems. So then it's better to also have it for security growing in Tromsø Arctic-alpine Botanic Garden. In Norway we got several microspecies of white beam, and they are endemic to Norway. In Nordland County in northern Norway there are even 2 microspecies connected, one isolated on islands, and this one, Hedlundia neglecta, or previously it was called Sorbus neglecta. This is only in one fjord in Bindal. The white beam, this is a microspecies. It is apomictic, and all individs are so identical. And these species, they are a result of the cross between Sorbus eucoparia and Sorbus rupicola, or now renamed to Aria rupicolia. And this white beam, Hedlundia neglecta, there is about 100 species of 100 plants of it in one fjord. And we grow it in the botanic garden for safekeeping, and it's also being grown in the Norwegian Arboretum in Bergen and also in Trondheim. So it's being kept to protect it from moose and spruce forest. So of last year I got to go to these special places in Nordland, and I got to collect seed berries of Hedlundia lancifolia, and this is even more rare than Hedlundia neglecta. There is only about 50 to 70 plants in nature, and I found it at a new location on an island, and went there and collected berries from those trees, and now we have these small plants coming from those berries, from those seeds. So we will grow them now in Tromsø. I think we will also distribute them back to the communities for growing in secure areas.
Now we are in our buttercup family collection, and there is variation from small plants to very tall perennial herbs which elongate and which have not started flowering. But I would like to say some words about anemone, because this is a group where we have realized that we have several special species and some that we don't believe are described by science. Let's start with this one, Anemonastrum prati from China. We got it from Gothenburg Botanic Garden, and it's a wonderful plant. The flowers are like 7 centimeters across. And then we move further into our collection. Here is a yellow, also now Anemonastrum species, which according to our beliefs is wrongly named, and it should be called Anemonastrum soliae. That's a combination that we have not made yet. And this one is in a group of species which are closely related, where we believe we have like 3 undescribed species in the garden. Some of the Korean participants of this meeting look carefully. They might see a species which they know about. It's Hepatica maxima, which is an endemic species to the Ullungdo island in the sea, which is, at least to us, it appears to have almost a tropical climate during summer, but it has cold air coming from the continent during the winter. So it's hardy here. And even more surprising is another Korean species, and it's also an endemic of the Ullungdo island, and it's the large rowan tree, Sorbus ullungensis. And you can see this one is at least 4 meters tall, large flower, fruits, and it has the tree with the nicest autumn colors among all plants in our garden. And it's a great surprise to us that this one is completely hardy here at Tromsø. Our New Zealand collection is in a particularly dramatic landscape, and that right now it features these large cushions of Myosotis retrosa, a species which was described as late as in 2018, and it forms large cushions, grows in the South Island of New Zealand, and it is in company with a large buttercup, Ranunculus insignis, which actually self-seeds here. Hebes are very popular in horticulture, and we have tried many of the common ones, but they haven't survived here. But the only one which has survived here is Hebe ramosissima, which is known from a single mountain area in New Zealand, and it's a very low mat forming species which performs excellently here. Here is another north facing slope, and in this area we cultivate a number of the snow primulas, which originate from high monsoon areas in China and Himalayas, and they have shown to be quite difficult in cultivation even here. And here we have a number of species, and the group is poorly known. There are still some species which we don't think have been described. This is a species which we haven't managed to determine with certainty yet. And further away we have other snow primulus. Here is one from Alaska, which have been flowering quite early and now start to flower again. Climate is very important, and we have realized that quite a number of plants that we grow are virtually impossible to cultivate in gardens in more warm climates.